Hey everyone, what's up? It is Thursday, May 17th. It is about, we can look here for a second, 2:09 p.m. 2:09 p.m. Pacific time. And you can see it here. This is a new, I know it's been quite a while, a new edition of Cartoon Flashback. Yeah, Cartoon Flashback. Unbelievable, right? But the thing is, what is it about? Well, excuse me. Sorry about that. Well, as you could see, it's called Cartoon Flashback. What cartoons that can make a return today? In other words, what cartoons from the 80s and even the 90s, but mostly the 80s, could make a return today? In other words, what cartoons could capture the magic, if not more so, than they did back in the 80s? What kind of cartoons could capture the magic? What I'm saying is, could they capture the same greatness? Can they capture that same enthusiasm that they caught back in the 80s and the 90s if they lasted up to that time period? Could they capture that same magic, that same feeling, with not just the generation that grew up on them then, but with the new generation today? Well, we have seen that throughout the years, many shows that have started in the 80s, early, mid to late, anytime a new reincarnation comes out, it either fails or it succeeds. Some successes have been like the Ninja Turtles. They, despite their incarnations, have proven to be a success. Sure, excuse me. Sure, there have been a few hiccups here and there. And what I mean by hiccups, I'm talking along the lines of the fact that you take a look at the anime that happened only in Japan and has made its way over here to the U.S. via online. And of course you look at Next Mutation, which could be looked at positively or negatively, no matter how, depending on your point of view. And then you have the upcoming Rise of the Ninja Turtles, which some are still kind of in question about because they don't know if this interpretation of the Ninja Turtles will live up to what the other did. In other words, will it live up to the success that previous incarnations have lived up to? We don't know yet. Rise of the Ninja Turtles is something a little bit different and new, if not familiar. But we'll have to wait and see. Other successes at times have been like Transformers. Transformers actually has had success as far as early as the mid to late 90s, with Beast Wars as a great prequel, series, and Beast Machine serving as a great sequel series. Now they've also had some other shows as well that's proven to be okay. Mostly anime based, but have proved to be successful, like Transformers Cybertron, Transformers Energon, Transformers Unicorn Wars, you name it. They've even had some shows here stateside that have proven to be a success as well. Shows like Transformers Animated. Shows like, well, believe it or not, Transformers Rescue Bots. And probably the most prolific one of them, out of all of them, Transformers Prime. And then, of course, right now, you have the other Transformers show called Robots in Disguise. Not Transformers R.I.D., which was an anime one, I think. This is a little bit more different. This is more based sort of as a hybrid of of Transformers Prime and somewhat the Michael Bay films, and a little bit of the 80s thrown in there. So you have that mixture all over. You have sort of a decent mixture all over, if you catch my drift, with the recent Transformers cartoon. So they too have proven they could be successful. G.I. Joe has proven to be successful at times. Heck, I'll give you, there are quite a few examples of that. Like I said, there's been quite a few examples of G.I. Joe succeeding, like the anime, the American anime, if you will, G.I. Joe Sigma 6, was a great success. G.I. Joe Renegades proved to be a decent success, not as much, but decent. Then you had Retaliation. Well, that's a movie, but then you had the various shows before that, various movies or mini-movies before that helped pave the way, I should say, for Sigma 6, helped pave the way for Renegades, and even paved the way for probably one of the most down, if not one of the most despised versions of G.I. Joe Extreme. However, some people would say G.I. Joe Extreme wasn't that bad. Still, it all depends on how you look at it. And then, of course, you got the Cartoon Network Adult Swim continuation of Generation 1 G.I. Joe from the 1980s, G.I. Joe Resolute. G.I. Joe Resolute was definitely an animated adaptation of Generation 1 G.I. Joe of the 1980s, meant for the fans that grew up at that time. Because only the fans that grew up at that time could understand exactly what has happened, could accept how much this version of how much closely connected this version was to G.I. Joe, and that just like the fans that watched G.I. Joe as kids, it too had grown up to be what it is. Now, like I said, some have had major successes. Those are just a few examples. Another one currently going on right now is probably the best example of keeping a show, or bringing a show back from the 80s and the 90s, where it proved to be somewhat of a success, keeping that spirit of the originals alive and adapting them for this new generation. And by adapting them for this new generation, along with bringing in a whole new element of world building and character building and development you never thought you'd associate with a franchise like this, and that, of course, is My Little Pony. And, of course, I'm talking about My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, which is known as Generation 4, proving that if you could take a concept of a originally established 80s franchise and animated programming, bring it into a new generation, introduce it to a new generation, and introduce it in a way that proves not only can it still be, proves, I should say, that not only can it be successful and draw in that younger demographic, that newer generation you want to draw in, but it could also prove to be successful by bringing back that older generation that grew up on the original My Little Pony, as well as the My Little Pony Tales series that came out in the 90s. And Friendship is Magic has proven that over the past 7.5 seasons, 7.5 seasons almost. I mean, right now we are currently in season 8. We are basically halfway through the season almost. We got about 4 more episodes before we hit episode 13. 4 more. This Saturday, next Saturday, and 2 Saturdays afterwards, we have 4 more episodes before we hit episode 13, which is halfway through season 8. As a matter of fact, Friendship is Magic has proven to be such a successful incarnation of My Little Pony that, like I said, not only has drawn in this newer fan base of a new generation to MLP, but has also brought back that older generation that grew up on the first 2 generations. But it's also proven to be such a success that it was able to spin off into another series, which has kind of had a mixed reaction. Even up to today, has had a mixed reaction, and that is Equestria Girls. Equestria Girls, which you may or may not know of, is basically it's basically a spin-off of My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, but it showcases the main 6 as human teenagers. And it takes place basically in an alternate dimension, an alternate world, where the characters of the main six, of the characters like Princess Celestia and Luna and Cadence, are all humans, are all teenagers, with the exception of Celestia, Cadence, and Luna, who are adults. And the main focal point, or the main heart character, the main central character of Equestria Girls is not their version of Twilight Sparkle, no. It's a character called Sunset Shimmer, and Sunset Shimmer serves as sort of the bridging gap between both Friendship is Magic and Equestria Girls, because Sunset Shimmer is in fact a pony from Equestria, from the Friendship is Magic world, that is now living her life currently in the Equestria human world. If you want any more information about that, I suggest checking out the Equestria Girls movie, the follow-up Rainbow Rocks, Friendship Games, and Legend of Everfree. These are the 4 feature-length films based on Equestria Girls. The first 2 are the most prominent ones to look at, if you want a better background on who Sunset Shimmer is. But with that said, and My Little Pony proving to be the most successful as of right now, the question is, what other 80s programs can really make that jump? There have been some that are currently in the works, some that have already debuted, and some that have yet to be even considered. Netflix, and streaming sites, streaming channels, and devices, streaming channels like Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Tubin, if you will, even YouTube, have proven to be have proven to be successful outlets for these retcons, these reboots of older shows from the past 30 to 40 years. They've proven to be successful outlets for them. One good example with Netflix is Voltron. Right now they have a program called Voltron Legendary Defender, which is basically a reboot of Voltron. Voltron also was basically the American name for the American adaptation, or the American dubbed version of Go Lion. Go Lion, of course, was an anime in Japan, and when you compare Go Lion and Voltron, the original Japanese version was a lot more violent and darker than what you got with Voltron, and it went more into who Voltron was and what it was about, and so on and so forth. Legendary Defender kind of goes in that direction, and it's proven to be such a success. I think right now it's entering its 4th or 5th season already. I'm not really sure. I have to look. What I'm saying is, it's Legendary Defender. What I'm saying has proven to be such a success that it's entering like its 4th or 5th season now. I have to look. I apologize the way I phrased it earlier. It sounded like I was talking to somebody. Actually, I'm talking to you guys, but you get the idea. But anyway, Legendary Defender has proven to be such a success that it's entering another season. I think it's 4th season. And what's funny is it's changed out how things work. First of all, if you have not watched some of it, you need to watch it. I haven't watched it all myself because I'm working and I got other things going on. But from what I understand by reading up on it and stuff, they've really changed things around a bit to make it a little bit more modernized and a little bit more interesting. For example, Princess Aurora, doesn't pilot the Blue Lion yet. They wait about a season or two before they actually give that another season or so before she pilots the Blue Lion. And they give a legit reason as to why she goes and does that. In fact, I hate to say this, it's a better reason than what the American dubbed Voltron, aka Go Lion, gave us back in the 80s. But yeah, Aurora doesn't pilot the Blue Lion until later on. I think about towards the end of season 2 into season 3, which is kind of, I guess, like I said, I feel is a better, is a better decision, because you want to, just by watching the first season, in her interaction, just piloting the ship and all that, eventually she's going to end up piloting one of the lions, and she does. So I like how they build towards that. They take time and build towards it. Another big change is Pidge. They actually changed Pidge. Pidge is not male anymore. No, Pidge is actually female, who disguised herself as a male to find her brother. Now, I think she reunites. Now, from what I understand, she does reunite with her brother later on. I can't remember what episode or what season it is, but she does reunite with him. But yeah, Pidge is actually a girl, and I can't think of her real name right now, but it's revealed that she's a girl later on in the season, later on in the first season, and I think the one that knows this even before it's revealed to the guys is Aurora. So Aurora kind of has an idea that Pidge is not exactly who she says she is. So, yeah, with those changes and a few others, like to the villains and stuff and story elements, has helped make Legendary Defender probably one of the best reboots that a show like Voltron can get. And it's something that you can only see on Netflix. So if you have Netflix, I say check it out. I really do. And again, like I said, there are other shows on Netflix and Amazon that are being rebooted, retconned, and everything for a new generation. Amazon has a retcon, a rebooted version of Rocky and Bullwinkle coming. Yeah, Rocky and Bullwinkle are making a return, all new series on Amazon for a new generation. That's surprising. That is surprising. That is surprising. I'm just checking something there. But that is surprising to see Rocky and Bullwinkle. Now, other ones I can't really think of right now that are either making a return, being in development, or have made a return, and have either proven to be failures, successes, or have yet to be determined because they're not released yet. But again, that gets back to my questioning here. What shows from the 80s that made it up into the 90s, what shows could make a return? And honestly, folks, when I think about it, there's a channel here on the YT called Retro Crunch that has done 4 parts, has a 4-part list, a playlist for all 4 parts, where they have intros of every single 80s cartoon, or at least every cartoon shown in the 80s, and even some of its continuations or soft retcons or soft retooling intros for the 90s. So what shows out of those that I saw and that no one else has thought of can make a comeback? And I do apologize, so we're about 20 minutes in and I'm talking about this and getting to the point, so I do apologize. But what shows from the 80s that were mediocre, didn't have much of a run, could have a run now, that made it just barely into the 90s, what shows could do it? Well, I look at it this way. One show that I think could really enjoy a decent return to television, whether it's through channels like Netflix, YouTube, Amazon, Hulu, you name it. Just letting my dog in there. Shows that one show I think that could really make a return, especially in this day and age, is the Get Along Gang. Oh yeah, the Get Along Gang, I believe, could really make a huge comeback when you think about it. I mean, it didn't get that much of a run when it originally came on to CBS and stuff. I think it got about a season or 2. But to me, I think the Get Along Gang is the perfect franchise to make a return. I really do. I think the Get Along Gang is the perfect franchise to get that shot, to get that opportunity to rise again from the ashes. And you could set the Get Along Gang in today's world. You could keep, and if you want to keep true to what it was originally, you could still do that. But to have the characters in today's world, interacting with today's technology, trying to have the adventures or learn the lessons that they learned in the original, I think would be fabulous. It's kind of a strange word for me to say, but it would be fabulous to see happen. Why? I'll tell you why. Think about all the excuse me there. But think about all of the mischief. Think of all the moments that could happen in this series in a new interpretation. Think of all the characters. I mean, think about the what characters could really adapt, could really be more adaptable to today's world. Could really have a tweak in character but stay true to who that character was. Think about that. Think about the characters that could really be more suited for today's world, for today's generation, and go from there. Like I said, think about the characters, certain characters that could really do that. I mean, there's characters like Dottie. Imagine her being reimagined for a new generation of Get Along Gang. Imagine a character, Dottie's character, being a hybrid of who she was and what she could be. I mean, think about it. Think about Montgomery. How he would be portrayed. How about Zipper? I mean, just a list of the characters there that could really adapt to be really adaptable into a new version of Get Along Gang for a new generation, I think would be tremendous. What are the shows? Well, there's a lot of shows that are making a comeback, because are making a return, courtesy of DVD and home video. Shows like The Biscuits, or the Briskets, or whatever they're called. The Briskets, which were these little like dog creatures that guarded royal treasure. They were basically tasked with this. Tasked with guarding it from this so-called king and his minion. Imagine the Briskets, or Biscuits, for a new generation. Think about how greater, if not more adventurous, the stories could be. I don't think you could pick a better show, a better Hanna-Barbera show to bring back if you're Warner Brothers. I mean, heck, they brought back Wacky Races, they can bring back this. Like I said, they brought back Wacky Races, they can bring back this. But what else? What other shows are out there that could really, from the 80s and the 90s? Well, I thought of one. It's kind of weird, but Super Ted. Think about a Super Ted show for this generation. For this generation. You keep it true a little bit to what it originally was, and then you add in elements for this generation, maybe make it a little darker, grimmer, more adventurous. You got money right there. You really do. You really do. I mean, you got money, you got everything. I mean, everything is right there. So, yeah. Super Ted, I think would be a good choice. How about this one? Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers. I know, we got Power Rangers up the b-hole, if you know what I mean. But Galaxy Rangers was a show that came out in the mid-'80s and was one of the first shows to implement CGI somewhat into the effects. So imagine the Galaxy Rangers brought back today. Not only could you keep it maybe traditionally not only could you keep it traditionally 2D as you used to, maybe give it a bit of a dark anime-like feel. Some of those animes are kind of like that. But imagine the adventures you could put the characters in. Imagine the situations. I mean, you could go a lot, especially if you make it a Netflix show. If you make it a Netflix-only show or an Amazon-only show, imagine how darker more dramatic you could get with a new version of Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers. That, to me, is a show a show and a franchise that really needs to be looked into to be brought back. I really think it could benefit from a reboot. I really do, especially for this new generation. Another one that I think is similar, I should say, Chase and the Wheeled Warriors. Chase and the Wheeled Warriors was one of those shows that ran for about 65 episodes, almost 2 seasons. But yet we never had any definitive conclusion. And this is a show that if you bring it back now, if you bring it back and reboot it for today's generation, I guarantee you people that grew up as fans of the show will want to do what the 80s version didn't do, and they'll want to see the story complete. They'll want to not only try to keep it true to what it was, but I think they'd also want to finish the story that was not finished in the original. And again, just like with Adventures of Galaxy Rangers, depending on who you would go with as its provider, as its outlet to be seen on, depending on who you would pick to be its provider, its outlet and provider to be seen on, whether it's Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, you could go as dramatic and as dark, and if not as crazy as you can, or as you want. I mean, here's the thing. One of the characters in there is named Flora. She's basically a girl that was a plant, that was grown from a plant. She's basically a plant girl, but she's more human. Imagine how creative you could get with Flora. Imagine that. Heck, you could even throw a weakness in that if she gets too weak, she reverts back to a plant. I'm just saying, the possibilities are endless. Another show I think that should make a comeback, in fact, I think they should just divide these two into their own shows. If you want to keep them together like you did originally, that's fine, but Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats. That is a franchise that was such a huge success in the 80s, it gave Heathcliff his own theatrical movie. True, the theatrical movie followed suit just like Looney Tunes did, and was just more along the lines of a compilation movie, was just a movie that was more of a compilation of his best episodes with a few original animations here and there to tie it together. But for Heathcliff to get a movie because of that version, because think about this. Heathcliff had two versions, I think, before that. It was Heathcliff and Marmaduke and Heathcliff and Dingbat. Neither one of them ever provided the success that Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats did. That interpretation did. And I think a new version for a new generation would really work. And I think the best place for that would be Netflix. Because again, you can get away with as much. It seems people are more appreciative of shows making a comeback when it comes to places like Netflix. To the point that you can order more seasons. People will want to see it. They will. They will want to see Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats with all new. And like I said about other shows, like Get Along Gang and everything, you could set it in modern times. You could set it in a modern time frame. And fans would appreciate it. They would. They would not be upset about it. And again, if you got it on a provider or an outlet like Netflix, you could get away with a lot more. You can. And heck, if it proves to be a success, do what it should have done back in the 80s, spin off the Cadillac Cats into their own show. The Cadillac Cats, in my opinion, just for the 11 minutes they were provided, had episodes and stories that could have been expanded on for 22 minutes. They did. They had episodes and stuff that could have been expanded on for 22 minutes, but they never had that opportunity. Because they never, despite how good they were spun off into their own show, or given the same treatment Heathcliff got, and that's be given a movie comprised of best episode, which was mainly a best episodes compilation, with a few original animation to tie it together. They never did that. And now would be the best opportunity. It would. And like I said, you could keep them together just like in the 80s, or you could separate them. And you could expand more on stories. Heathcliff any stories you want to expand on Heathcliff that, let's say back in the 80s, could just be justified for 11 minutes, you could expand on those stories. Same with the Cadillac Cats. Same with the Cadillac Cats. You can expand more. So either way, you keep them together, that's fine. Divide them, that's even better. But those two programs need to make a return. And bringing them back in today's setting, I think people will really, really enjoy them. They really will. There's no doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind that fans, people, newer generations and the older generation would appreciate it. I mean, you know another show that should make a comeback? Bravestarr. Yeah. I mean, heck, take a look at Filmation's, take a look what's happening right now. A show that was presented by Filmation, She-Ra, is making a return. Making a return courtesy of Netflix. Bravestarr could do the same thing. Bravestarr could do the same thing, and I guarantee you people would like it. Because again, just like they'll probably do with She-Ra, you could do a lot more now if it would be a Netflix or Amazon or Hulu exclusive. You could. Another one, Gallater. Gallater and the Lance, or whatever it's called, that's a show that could really benefit from a return. Fans would really get a kick out of that. You could do a lot more with it than you probably did originally in the 80s. That would be good. Two shows that I grew up on. Two shows that I grew up on that Hasbro owned. You were not originally, but now are. Visionaries. Visionaries is one show that I think could really benefit from a return. I mean, heck, you're pretty much planning to cross them over with what, Transformers and all that in the IDW comics? So why not just bring Visionaries back? And today, and you know what? Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but depending on who the provider could be, you could get as dark and as crazy with that show as ever. Mask. You're planning to do a live-action film based on Mask? What better way to really help promote that than not only bring the original back to maybe streaming services like Netflix, Amazon, or Hulu, and maybe re-release the complete series on DVD, but how about on top of that you create an all-new animated program? I mean, you're already planning to do a crossover with Mask and G.I. Joe, I think, in the comics, and Mask and Transformers in the comics. So why not capitalize on that and help promote this new movie you're going to be working on by making an all-new animated series? Fans like me would be very appreciative of that. We would love that. We would love that. There's no doubt we would get a kick out of it. Other shows that I think could benefit from maybe a shot at being rebooted. Ulysses 31 was back in the early 80s. I think it could really do good if it was brought back. Mysterious Cities of Gold, which I think I've heard is going to get a movie down the line, maybe a return, or is being considered, should definitely be put on the list. What else? Oh, this is one that Warner Brothers should really think of doing. Hanna-Barbera created it, and I was surprised to find out about this when I was looking at the intros. Queen Esther. Queen Esther would be a show that could be brought back. I'm surprised, like I said, Hanna-Barbera made a series. So imagine bringing that in. That would be huge. Really huge. When you think about it. Man, there's just so much to think about when it comes to what shows could benefit from being rebooted and brought back. You know, after looking at the success of some of the franchises that I got introduced to in the 80s being successful today. I mean, heck, Gem, if they want to do a new Gem series, Gem and the Holograms, do it. The comic proved to be a success. The movie may not have, the live-action movie may not have, but the comic definitely was a success. And I think Hasbro needs to capitalize on that and do an all-new animated series. They really should. You got these deals with Amazon and Netflix and Hulu and Discovery Family. I think if I'm Hasbro, I take advantage of that. I really do. I'm telling you, it's like there's so many shows from the 80s and the early 90s that could really benefit from being retconned and rebooted. I mean, heck, Disney has brought back DuckTales, and they're now finally acknowledging on television, not through the comics, but on television, the connection between DuckTales and Darkwing Duck. I know you're thinking, but they did do that, Brian. They did that with Gizmo Duck showing up and everything. Yeah, I'm not saying that they didn't. But what I'm saying is at least we're getting a better acknowledgement. Because the only thing that we got close, like you said, to DuckTales and Darkwing Duck crossing over in the original Disney Afternoon, was Launchpad being part of Darkwing Duck and Gizmo Duck making a few special appearances. That was it. And maybe a few crowd cameo shots, or cameo shots in crowds of some of the DuckTale villains. But that was it. We didn't get anything else. And the only other closest we got was a billboard with Scrooge McDuck's face on it, saying, "Welcome to Duckburg." But we didn't get anything close to what we're getting now. And there's no doubt that apparently we're going to get a crossover between Darkwing and DuckTales, and not just a crossover with Darkwing as a television show character for about a few moments. I'm talking full out, make it 2-part, 3-part, or whatever kind of crossover. And a lot of people have felt that this is going to lead into the Disney Afternoon coming back as some kind of Disney Afternoon universe. Officially on television, not through Disney Adventure magazines. And they'd be right. Because there's a lot of shows that the Disney Afternoon aired I definitely think could benefit from getting the same rebooted treatment that DuckTales did. And I hope Disney considers them. I mean, you get basically acknowledgement that St. Canard is in the same universe. I mean, not St. Canard, but, what was it? St. Canard is where Darkwing is. Cape Suzette, yeah, Cape Suzette. You get acknowledgement that Cape Suzette is in the same universe. So why not play upon that? Bring Tailspin back, or at least bring them back in a crossover with DuckTales and and then go from there. Same with Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. Same with freaking Gummy Bears. And heck, if you want to throw in a little bit of an Easter egg, put the freaking Wuzzles in there as well. These are Disney shows that could benefit from not only being reintroduced, maybe in cameo, maybe in some kind of special crossover with the new DuckTales, but also benefit from their own individual series being rebooted and retconned. I think fans would appreciate that. I would appreciate that. Fans who grew up on the Disney Afternoon would appreciate that. The people in charge of DAF Radio, Disney Afternoon Forever Radio, would appreciate that. Anybody that grew up on cartoons in the 80s, Disney, Saturday mornings, you name it, weekday mornings, weekday afternoons, would appreciate something like that. They would. Overall, when I look at shows of the 80s and stuff in early 90s, the shows that I've just mentioned, maybe with several others, I definitely believe deserve a shot at being considered, if not being considered for a retcon and reboot, if not definitely deserve to be rebooted and retconned for a new generation. But while creating that reboot and retcon, keeping the spirit of what made the original ones so great, so that not only do you attract that new generation in, but through curiosity you bring back that older generation that grew up on them. So to me, those are the shows, every one that I've mentioned, and I apologize if it was nearly at the 20-minute mark before I got to it, but those are the shows that I truly believe deserve to be considered, if not definitely deserve, a reboot and a retcon and brought back for a newer generation to enjoy, along with the older generation that grew up on them, if the spirit of the original show is kept intact. So let me know what you guys think, though, about those shows that I've mentioned. Comment down below. Thank you all for listening to this all-new Cartoon Flashback. Hopefully I could do more of the Cartoon Flashback in time. It all depends. But let me know what you guys think. Comment down below. I would love to hear from you. Hopefully you've taken your time in listening to this. And I will talk to you all later. So until then, God bless. Take care. I'm out.